What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewaters Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and this is the last football video of this year. Kind of hurts me. I love doing these football videos this year, but since it's the last one, we're going to be talking about the Super Bowl. I'm going to be wrapping up my season, wrapping up the Bridgewaters Finest private pick'em as well. Since it's kind of a special episode, I thought I'd do something a little special for you. That's right, kids. The hat and glasses are back, one night only, for the last video of this year. So Super Bowl 47 went down on Sunday, February 3rd. As far as I'm concerned, one of the great Super Bowls of all time. You had one team that just got out to a very big lead through the first half of the game, just to have the other team roar and come back and damn near win the thing. The game essentially ends on a goal line stand. It was everything you could ask for in a football game between two teams that play very similar styles of football, smash mouth, entertaining for the fans to watch, and really you couldn't ask for too much more in terms of a Super Bowl, a championship game. Of course, as we all know by now, the Baltimore Ravens hold on by a field goal to beat the San Francisco 49ers 34-31 to claim their second franchise Super Bowl, second Super Bowl ring for Ray Lewis. They send Ray Lewis out as a Super Bowl champion. Now, as you remember from watching my previous video, I went into this game with a predicting record straight up, over, under, and against the spread of 16, 13, and 1. Now, in predicting this game, I actually went 2-1, so I did very well predicting the Super Bowl this year. Straight up, I told you to take Baltimore. Straight up, they ended up winning the game. Against the spread, obviously, I told you to take Baltimore plus 3.5. Obviously, they covered there because they won. Or not covered, they beat it. The over-under, I told you to take under 47 points, so that unfortunately didn't work out, because that's a combined score of, 65. Obviously that didn't work out too well, so I was 2-1 predicting the final of the championship game. I correctly predicted Baltimore on the money line and Baltimore plus 3.5 against the spread. Incorrectly took under 47 points. So I ended up with an overall playoff predicting record of 18, 14, and 1. I was 6-5 picking straight up, which is an improvement from last year, believe it or not. Last year I was only 5-6. Against the spread, I was 6-4 and 1, so it wasn't too bad there. Obviously got the push in the Atlanta was it the Atlanta-San Francisco game? I think it was Atlanta-San Francisco. And over-under, I was 6-5. So all in all, I chalk it up as a success. It's not a great success, but it is definitely a success for me, so we hope to build on that going into next season. So we take a look at the actual championship game now. We compare the quarterbacks. Of course, Joe Flacco ended up winning the Super Bowl MVP trophy, 22 of 33, 287 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. Flacco ended the playoffs 72 of 126 for 1,140 yards with 11 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. What an amazing playoff Joe Flacco had, and it only makes sense that he had it in a contract year. Kaepernick went 16 of 28 for 302 yards, so actually outthrew Flacco in terms of yardage, only putting one ball into the end zone, though, and he also had an interception. Kaepernick finishes the playoffs passing 49 of 80, 798 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Comparing the running backs, Ray Rice touched the ball 20 times, only carried for 59 yards, and did not find the end zone. So on the playoffs, 84 carries, 306 yards, and 2 scores. Bernard Pierce touched the ball an additional 12 times, only picking up 33 yards. So San Fran's run D was as advertised in this game. Pierce ends the playoffs, 39 carries, 202 yards, with no touchdowns. We take a look at the San Fran side, and that running offense was definitely clicking. Frank Gore, 19 carries for $110 on the ground and a touchdown. He ends a phenomenal playoff, 63 carries, 319 yards, and 4 touchdowns in 3 games. Colin Kaepernick added 62 yards on the ground on 7 carries, finding the end zone in the third quarter. He finishes the playoffs with 25 carries, 264 yards, better than 10 yards a carry. Amazing numbers. And he also had 3 touchdowns in 3 games. Wide receivers Anquan Boldin had 6 catches, including a crucial back shoulder catch on a third down pass. 104 yards on those 6 catches, found the end zone again. On the playoffs, Bolden was phenomenal. 22 catches in 4 games, 380 yards, and 4 touchdowns, so averaging a touchdown a game. And you had Jacoby Jones. He only had 1 catch in the game, but it was a monster 56-yard catch and run, which resulted in, I believe, Baltimore's 2nd or 3rd touchdown. I can't remember which one it was. Jacoby Jones ends the playoffs, only 5 catches, but 147 yards. That's almost 30 yards per catch. And Jones had 2 touchdowns. The rest of the team caught 15 passes for 127 yards and a touchdown from Dennis Pitta. The 49ers side of the field for receivers, Crabtree had 5 catches for a $109 and 1 touchdown. He ends the playoffs, 20 catches, 285 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Vernon Davis also had a big game, 6 catches for 104 yards, so same yardage as Anquan Boldin. Davis did not find the end zone. He ended the playoffs with only 12 catches, so half of his playoff catches came in this game. 12 catches, 254 yards, and 1 touchdown. The rest of the team caught 5 passes for 89 yards. And if we take a look at the defensive side of things, both teams really were as advertised in terms of how they play defense, even though that score there is kind of misleading when I say that. Baltimore managed 3 sacks in the game, 1 from Arthur Jones and 2 from Paul Kruger. Had an interception from Ed Reed, turnover. Forced fumble from Courtney Upshaw, turnover. And Donnell Ellerbe led the team with 9 tackles. On the San Francisco side, they did manage to get 2 sacks on Joe Flacco, 1 from Ahmad Brooks and 1 from Ray McDonald. Also had a forced fumble on a fantastic tackle play by Terrell Brown, and Patrick Willis led the way with 10 tackles. And we take a look at the X Factors. Remember in the video, the prediction video, I gave you 5 X Factors this time instead of 3. X Factor number 1, I talked about whether or not injuries were maybe piling up for the Ravens. I don't think the injuries were a huge factor. They did play something of a factor in the game because not only did Haloti Ngata leave for the majority of the game, Ed Reed also missed some snaps with injury-related stuff. The injury factor may have been a factor. It may have played a role after the power went out. After the power came back on, you might think just kind of the older roster who's kind of dealing with some nagging injuries. They had a layoff of over a half an hour right after halftime, and you got to wonder if maybe it played a role. I can't say that it did, and I can't say to what degree that it did, but it's entirely possible that it may have played a slight role. X Factor number 2, I said Baltimore's chances of winning this game is going to be predicated on turnovers. Baltimore did manage to generate 2 turnovers. There was that fumble recovery as well as the interception. And off of those turnovers, Baltimore generated that Dennis Pitta touchdown as well as 8+ minutes of possession time. So Baltimore's success in this game did ultimately end up sort of being on their defense and being able to predicate turnovers. Mission accomplished for Baltimore's defense. As far as I'm concerned, the third X Factor, we talked about whether the bye week was going to play a factor. Bye week did not play a factor whatsoever. Both teams came out in this game. They looked fresh. They looked effective. They did not look rusty. And they seem to have kept the momentum that they had from both of their games. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think the bye week played a huge role. X Factor number 4, we talked about whether or not Joe Flacco was going to be able to keep that pass game, that deep pass game that he's relied on for this whole playoffs, whether that was actually going to work against San Francisco. Flacco clearly demonstrated that not only was that going to work, but he was also going to put in the percentile passing performance, try to say that 5 times fast, percentile passing performance that he had yet to show in these playoffs. Flacco completed passes of 56 yards, that touchdown to Jacoby Jones, 30, 23, 20. So he was clicking on the deep passes, but he also completed 67% of his overall passes. So not only was he able to be effective with the deep passes, he was also able to be effective on the rest of his passes as well. And X Factor number 5, I talked about whether or not Baltimore was going to be able to contain and manage Colin Kaepernick. And really, as far as Kaepernick goes, it was really the tale of two halves. The first half, he was really showing that no matter what 49ers fans might say, Kaepernick is a rookie. This was only his, 10th, 11th start? And he was really showing that in the first half. In the first half, Baltimore was able to contain him. He made some mistakes. He made some bad throws, a couple of throws on the run that Baltimore was able to force him to, which I mentioned in the video. I said Baltimore needs to force Cap out of the pocket and force him to make a couple of bad throws, which they ended up doing in the first half. But in the second half, Kaepernick came out, especially after the power outage, and just destroyed. He was directly responsible for 2 touchdowns and big yardage in the second half. So he really came out and sort of figured out what Baltimore was doing and was able to figure a way around it. So that's it. Baltimore's our Super Bowl champions. Again, just a couple of other things to sort of mention from the game. The power outage. Obviously, as we know, if you watch the game, the power went out in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans just after the second half began. It was out for about 34 minutes. And really, San Fran used that to their advantage and really came back in this game. But what I loved about it was I loved how quickly internet memes were popping up, pretty well as soon as this happened. And it's a reminder that the internet can be such a creative place sometimes. I'm a huge professional wrestling fan, so there were memes about The Undertaker and The Shield and Brock Lesnar and stuff and Chris Jericho that kept popping up. Some of them had me howling with how funny they were. But yeah, so you'd think Mercedes-Benz would be able to pay the power bill, but apparently they weren't. And then now there's, of course, everybody talking about, in terms of Ray Lewis, and talking about the murder charges from back in the day. And I hesitated as to whether or not I was going to talk about this, but I wanted to give my opinion on this on video so that it's sort of there for all time. As far as I can tell, the only things that Ray Lewis can be unequivocally proven to be guilty of is A, being involved in an altercation with multiple people on both sides that resulted in the unfortunate deaths of 2 people. And that's really the thing that we should pay attention to, is the fact that, 2 people did die. 2 people did lose their lives. And it's really a really unfortunate thing that happened. And of making a misleading statement to police. Those are the only things that Ray Lewis can be unequivocally proven to be guilty of. He was there, and he made a misleading statement to the police. No one aside from the people that were there and others who directly witnessed what happened can say one way or the other what happened, who stabbed who initiated, anything like that. Anything that anybody else says about those events are inferences. They're inferring what they think happened based on the facts as they see them and what they hypothesize happened based on the facts as they see them. Some things that some people can say is it makes common sense. So some of the inferences are very strong. At the end of the day, they're still inferences. As unfortunate a situation as it is, people need to get off his ass about it. To be perfectly honest, he knows. He knows what happened, and he knows he's the only one that can say what happened. And there should be justice for those boys that lost their lives, but we can't all run around with our pitchforks and say, Ray Lewis, you murdered these guys, because honestly, we don't know. We're going to finish off the video by crowning the first ever and the first annual Bridgewaters Finest Private Pick'em Champions. Before we do that, I want to go and I just want to shout out to every single person in the league that won a week this year. We had some people join and then just dropped out and really weren't involved for the majority of the season, but I did want to take the time to shout out those individuals who did at least win 1 week. We want to shout out to Junebug25, who won week 6, and Sherman Slayers, who won week 3. We want to shout out to Mega Awesome 1121, who won weeks 13, 15, and the divisional round of the playoffs. We also want to shout out to Marching On Together Leeds, who won week 2, week 8, and wildcard weekend in the playoffs. We want to shout out to Tom Mullins, who won 6 different weeks this year. Weeks 1, 4, 7, 12, the conference championships, and Super Bowl week. And I want to shout out to myself, as self-indulgent as that is, for winning 7 weeks this year. Weeks 5, 9, 10, 11, 14, 16, and 17. The top 3 finishing and grand champion of the first ever Bridgewaters Finest private pick'em. 3rd place was Marching On Together Leeds. Finished the season with a record of 172, 94, and 1 for 1,451 confidence points. Bridgewaters Finest, I had a final record predicting of 169, 97, and 1 for 1,475 confidence points. And our champion, in one of the great fantasy performances of all time, he led from pillar to post. From week 1 all the way to the Super Bowl. I bow down to the king, our champion, Tom Mullins. 174, 92, and 1, 1,516 confidence points. So congratulations to Tom, myself, and Marching On Together Leeds, the top 3 this year in the Bridgewaters Finest private pick'em. I'm going to be doing the league again next year. I hope you 3 especially, and other viewers out there will absolutely join me next year. Let's see if Tom can defend that title. So that's it. That's it for football this year. The NFL is over and done with. I probably won't be doing anything for the draft, to be perfectly honest. This year's draft class is not nearly as exciting as last year's was, what with Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin III and everything like that. Of course, I'm still going to be doing my UFC videos. I'm still going to be finishing my awards, and I'm still going to be doing other things on this channel. So I really do hope that you hang around. I hope you're not just here to watch the football videos. If you are, God bless you, and I love you for doing it. But I hope you stick around, and I hope you see the other content that I'm planning on putting out on the channel. Who knows, maybe you might see something you like. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewaters Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Thanks to every single person that has ever watched one of my videos. You guys are the reason that I do this. You guys keep me coming back and doing more, because I enjoy bringing you guys content that you want to see. So thank you so much, and I will see you for the 2013 NFL season.